Hello everyone, my name is Steves and welcome to the channel Tecognition, the channel of technology. So today's video is about the processors and the types of processors. Well, let us know the content of this particular video. The content was like this. The first one was what is processor. We'll be knowing what is a processor, and then a little bit of history of the processor. Don't worry, it's not too much, but it's very little. And the third was like types of the processors and the conclusion. So first, let us know what is the processor. So a processor, or so called as microprocessor, is a small chip that resides in computers and other electronic devices. Its basic job is to receive input and provide the appropriate output, which means when we give a command to the computer, it gives the perfect and appropriate output according to our inputs. And the processor is like a brain for a computer, like how we have brain as humans. We have brain. It says that we should not touch some of the objects which are like heated or which are like hot. We cannot touch them because our brain instructs us that you should not touch it. If you touch it, your hand will be burnt. That in such a way the processor works as a brain for the computer and all the kind of devices the processor was contained by. And the processor was also called as central processing unit, which is CPU. Well, that's about the processor, and now let us know a little bit of history of the processor. The first microprocessor, also called as processor, is emerged in early 1970s, and you know what, it was emerged by the Intel company, and it is used for electronic calculators. Intel introduced its first 4-bit processor 4004, which is the model number of the processor, in 1971, and Intel 8008 is introduced in 1972, which is the first 8-bit processor. But since there was some of the performance issues, it created another 8-bit processor and called it 8080, which is 8080, and that particular processor was invented or was created in 1974. That's about the history. Let us know the types of processors. So the processors are of two: single core processor and the multi-core processor. Let us know what a single core processor. Single core processors are those which has only one core, which means it cannot do multitasking or it cannot do many works at a time, and this is called a single core processor. The definition is like this, but let us know what is the meaning. Single core processor is like it does only one single work at a time. If you give a command to the computer, it does that, and after that particular command you should give another commandment so that it can do. That means it can do only one work at a time, and it cannot do too many works. That means it cannot do multitasking. Now let us know what is a multi-core processor. Multi-core processors are really super cool because it can do multitasking, which means it can do many works at a time, and this is called as a multi-core processor. And you know what, there are types in multi-core processor. This continues here. So the multi-core processors and types were like this: 3 types: dual core, quad core, and octa-core. Let us know what is dual core. Here the name dual itself says 2, which means there was 2 single core processors integrated and implemented in one single processor, which means one single square box and 2 square boxes were implemented in one. And that's about the dual core processor, which means it can do 2 works at once. And quad core, the same. Quad core means the 4 and 1 single square, 4 squares was implemented and integrated into it, which means it can do multitasking too. And the formal definition was like this: quad core means the processor integrated, the 4 processors integrated into one, and so called it as quad core processor. And now coming into the super fast, awesome octa-core processor. Octa-core processor, the word octa means 8, which means 8 processors combined together as one, and is what we called it as octa-core processor. Well, that's about the multi-core processors and its types. So let us get into the conclusion part. So if you're a normal kind of person or you own a PC, the personal computer just for the normal use at home, then there was no need for you to buy these high-end processors or high-end core processors, because these high-end core processors was useful for the people who does multitasking, who just like do browsing in the same way, do editing in Adobe Photoshop or Adobe Premiere Pro or any kind of After Effects, and who does any kind of gaming at the same time. And when at the same time when multitasking happening, and mostly this when this particular happens by using high graphical stuff and all this kind of stuff, then you should obviously use the multi-core processor or octa-core processor, which has high end. And if you're like the person who does multitasking, then this one you need to buy this obviously, because you need to buy this for your computer not to be slow and for it to be running very smoothly. Well, thank you so much for seeing till now, watching to the end. If you like the video, then make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment, and click on the bell icon to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Thank you.